Hi there and welcome. When one child's present misses delivery on Christmas Eve, what lengths should Santa go to keep the magic alive? Find out what it really means to be Santa Claus as we tell you the story of 2011's Arthur Christmas. In Trelew, Cornwall, England, a girl named Gwen sends an inquisitive letter to the North Pole for Santa,
Dear Santa, are you real? Are you Saint Nicholas?
asking a million questions and wishing for a pink bike. Her letter reaches Arthur Claus at the North Pole, who writes back, assuring her that Santa is real and that she'll receive her bike by sunrise on Christmas Day. On Christmas Eve, a mysterious aircraft hovers above Aarhus, Denmark. Suddenly, it lights up, and down comes elves and Santa Claus. With military speed and precision, the elves stealthily infiltrate houses and deliver presents. The current Santa, Malcolm Claus, does the bare minimum, and soon they're off to another city. Malcolm is the 12th Santa Claus, but he's more of a figurehead. From mission control at the North Pole, his oldest son Steve runs the whole operation, directing the elf soldiers in the massive aircraft called the S1.
Operation Santa Claus is coming to town.
Malcolm's other son Arthur rushes in to get a child's toy color request to Steve. In his haste, he knocks over a row of elves, disrupting their work. Steve asks his brother to leave as they're all very busy. Turns out the toy was already delivered in the wrong color, and a disappointed Arthur leaves. Suddenly, the code red alarm blares, and an elf reports that they have a walker in the same room as Santa. Everyone gasps as they discover that Santa is resting on a button that makes a sound if he moves. Arthur worries while his grandfather, Grand Santa, thinks it's not a big deal. While everyone is focused on Santa, an elf in the S1 accidentally pushes a button that causes a gift to fall off the conveyor belt. Nobody notices. Following Steve's instruction, the elves and Santa get out and finish the mission. Thinking delivery is complete, they head home. At the North Pole, Santa and the elf soldiers return to much fanfare. Malcolm declares the 70th mission a successful operation, proudly announcing that they delivered 2 billion presents in one night. Everyone, including Steve, thinks he's going to pass the mantle to his oldest, but Malcolm isn't keen on retiring yet. Later, Arthur and his family have a late Christmas dinner. Grand Santa implies that Malcolm did little during the mission, telling Steve that he'll never become Santa unless he knocks his father off. It's awkward, but Arthur tries to defuse the situation with a board game for Christmas fun. Meanwhile, during general cleaning of the S1, an elf named Bryony Shelfley is stunned to find an undelivered present. Back at Christmas dinner, the board game isn't going well, and Steve receives an alarming message, causing him to leave immediately. Arthur chases after him, giving him the Santa piece from the game, saying he believes his brother will become Santa next year. At mission control, Steve meets Bryony and tries to figure out the undelivered gift. Arthur, who's followed his brother, is extremely upset at hearing what happened.
A child's been missed! Do you want to wake up the whole North Pole?
Malcolm arrives and blames Steve, but also doesn't help with solutions. Steve insists it can't be delivered in time since the S1 and the elves need rest. He thinks one child's an acceptable error. Santa Malcolm readily agrees and mission control is closed, but Arthur grabs the wrapped present and checks his letters, realizing it's the bike for Glenn of Trelew. While everyone rests easy for the night, including Santa, who dozes off peacefully, Arthur frets. Grand Santa finds him panicking at the thought of Gwen waking up without a gift on Christmas morning. Telling his grandson there's a way, he takes Arthur to the barn where he keeps Eve, the actual classic sleigh. Arthur is stunned, believing it had been scrapped. He's awestruck at finding the tank of magic dust that makes it fly. Grand Santa then shows him the live reindeer, descendants of the original 8. Marveling at it all, Arthur believes Grand Santa can deliver Gwen's present. He's thrilled until he's told to come along. With 2 hours left until sunrise in Trelew, they take off with the sleigh. And it's a bumpy ride, as the reindeer have never flown before, but Grand Santa handles them well, and even making a cloud snowman along the way. He tells Arthur how every heir to Santa, including Malcolm, used to ride along in the very sleigh until Steve insisted on upgrading. He opens the map of the Clauses, which is so old it doesn't have Toronto in it. They narrowly avoid crashing into buildings and obstacles. Suddenly, Bryony pops up from the hood, having stowed away, annoying Grand Santa as he points out that they're missing a reindeer. Meanwhile, at the North Pole, Steve is alerted to the missing Bryony and that Arthur was in the sleigh barn. In Idaho, Grand Santa has Arthur take down a reindeer sign, intending to use it to fill the gap left by the missing reindeer. Bryony warns of a waker alerted to their presence, and he's got a gun. While Grand Santa skedaddles with the sign, Arthur tries to explain their presence, but he ends up looking like an alien. They zoom off, dodging gunshots. Using the dated map, Grand Santa lands in the middle of Serengeti National Park in Tanzania, where they're surrounded by growling lions. Arthur is aghast while Grand Santa panics, begging Arthur to save him. At Mission Control, Steve reviews CCTV footage of Grand Santa and Arthur leaving in the old sleigh. He's stunned to learn that Eve wasn't scrapped years ago and exasperated that the only way to contact the sleigh is through an old two-way device called a signalator. Back in Tanzania, Arthur distracts the lions with his reindeer slippers and singing a Christmas song. Somehow it works and the lions fall asleep. They're escaping when the signalator on the sleigh activates with a loud noise, waking the lions who chase them. A lion chomps on it, sending a garbled message to Mission Control and frustrating Steve. Byroni's gift wrapping skills come in handy as they shake off the lions. However, some of the reindeer broke off from the sleigh and Arthur pours magic dust on them to save them from the lions, causing all of the other animals to fly as well. While he's happy that they managed to escape, Grand Santa doesn't feel the same. He's upset that Eve is damaged and his camera got broken. He can't take a good picture of himself being Santa. Arthur sadly realizes that Grand Santa's efforts weren't for Gwen, but for himself. At Mission Control, Steve continues trying to reach the sleigh, but the signalator overheats, cutting the power. Using Byroni's elf-issued GPS, Arthur and the company arrive in Trelu, but Grand Santa is sulking, refusing to help. Frustrated, Arthur leaves to deliver the present, with Bryony following. The elf gets them inside the house, guiding Arthur to the tree. To their surprise, there's already a bicycle-shaped present there. Looking around, it becomes clear that they're in a Mexican household. Suddenly, the alarm blares and a small dog attacks Arthur's slippers. They escape through the window, and as they run, helicopters appear, seemingly searching just for them. Observing their surroundings, Byrony determines they're in the wrong Trelu, not the one in England, but in Mexico. Reaching the sleigh, a quick search for Byrony's phone reveals that they're on the news suspected as aliens. At Mission Control, Steve is horrified at the news reports popping up, every single one of them about the sleigh. But Arthur is undeterred, still determined to deliver the present. However, Grand Santa refuses to drive while they're being hunted, traumatized from the Cuban Missile Crisis when they nearly started World War III. Byrony forces Arthur to drive, and they take to the skies just in time. Steve calls Byrony's phone, and Grand Santa immediately tries to blame Arthur. However, Steve has caught on the Grand Santa's secret plan, getting a photo of himself in the sleigh and delivering the gift, just to show Steve how it's truly done. He scolds them for allowing themselves to be seen, but Arthur is more concerned about getting Gwen's gift to her. He asks Steve for help, which the elves think is a great idea. However, once Steve realizes that they, not he, would be hailed as heroes, he insists they return home immediately. Arthur believes that Santa cares and wouldn't want a child to be missed. When Arthur proves that their father is sleeping soundly, Bryony helps Arthur see that maybe Santa doesn't care that much. Suddenly, Grand Santa pulls at the reins, causing the sleigh to flip over, tossing them out. They land on a beach, where Arthur admits he's being ridiculous over just one kid. A guilty Grand Santa apologizes for messing things up, revealing that he just wanted Malcolm and Steve to remember how he used to be. But Arthur declares he'll never be able to write another letter saying that Santa cares. Meanwhile, at the North Pole, Malcolm is woken up by the elves, who are distressed upon learning that a child was missed. Overwhelmed by their questions, Malcolm directs them to Steve.
One child doesn't matter? Which one?
At Mission Control, amidst the crowd of clamoring elves, a stressed Steve utters something controversial.
Cares about one single tiny child? I do.
Malcolm hears him and tries to pass off the blame, telling Steve he made the wrong decision about the missed gift. Frustrated, Steve exits. Further overwhelmed by the elves, Malcolm leaves to visit Arthur's room. After reading some of his son's letters, he realizes how much Arthur looks up to him. Back at the beach, seeing Gwen's letter makes Arthur realize that as long as they get the bike to her before she wakes up, then the Santa who cares about every child, the one that he and every child believe in, still exists. With new determination, Arthur rows them on a boat to get to Trelu, making his companions think that he's gone mad. Bryony points out that they're going around in circles, and her words make Grand Santa realize that the reindeer pulling the sleigh are circling the earth, which means that they can't get it back. Arthur launches himself into the air using magic dust. When the sleigh comes, he uses rope and an anchor to catch it, managing to flip it back to the upright position and make it stop, although it falls on Grand Santa and Byrony's phone. After a quick celebration where they lose the elf's phone, Grand Santa brings their sleigh back to the skies. At the North Pole, Malcolm tells his wife Margaret that he's delivering the missed present. She's more concerned about Arthur and Grand Santa, so they pack up and head to the S1 together. Steve notices his aircraft leaving and hurries on board, bickering with his dad, while Malcolm tries to steer the S1. His obvious inability forces him to cede driving to Steve. The elves have a meltdown, panicking at all of the Clauses leaving. Back at the sleigh, as they've lost their GPS, Grand Santa takes them to outer space so they can figure out which direction they should be heading. Unbeknownst to them, global military leaders are convening, discussing the sleigh as an alien threat. As Grand Santa drives back to Earth, their speed causes them to lose the remaining reindeer. They start falling, but Grand Santa's old pet steps up. But they're detected by the UNFITA, which sends a predator drone. Arthur and the others are delighted to finally see Trelew England, but they've got company. So Grand Santa decides to sacrifice Eve. Arthur leaps from the sleigh with a gift, while Grand Santa bids his old sleigh goodbye. Eve is blasted to pieces, but all her passengers and reindeer survive. Meanwhile, the S1 reaches its destination and Steve descends to deliver the gift. Watching him, Malcolm accepts it's time to retire. At the door, Steve hands the gift over dryly, but
Good morning, Gwen. Ho, ho, etc.
realizes too late that it's the wrong child. They're in Trelew, Mexico. He attempts to take the gift back, but the boy refuses. In Trelew, England, Arthur decides to use the bike to reach Gwen quickly. Back at the North Pole, the elves continue panicking until they notice that Arthur is nearing the missed child's house. Meanwhile, in the S1, Steve admits that he's not great with kids, wondering aloud if it makes him a bad Santa. They receive a report that the sleigh has been shot down, but that Arthur isn't giving up. Bryony rewraps the gift as they bike towards Gwen. They arrive, but the sun has risen and Arthur thinks it's too late. Then the S1 arrives, covering the whole of Trelew and blocking out the sun. Taking full advantage, Arthur enters the house as Steve, Malcolm, and Grand Santa follow. Back at the North Pole, the elves are touched that all the Santas are personally delivering the gift. While Arthur is fixing up Gwen's present, he's delighted to find his father in the house, saying he knew Santa wouldn't just go to bed and forget about Gwen. Malcolm feels guilty, looking thoughtful as Grand Santa and Steve bicker about who gets to put the gift under the tree. He says Arthur should do it, and in a heartwarming moment, Arthur does. They hear Gwen wake up and hurry to hide in a room, intent on escaping through the window. But Arthur asks his dad to wait before leaving so that they can watch Gwen open her gift. As they wait, Malcolm tells Steve that he deserves to be Santa. However, as they watch the wonder on Arthur's face at seeing Gwen enjoying her present, Steve hands Arthur the Santa board game token, symbolically handing him the role of Santa Claus. They all tumble out of the house as Bryony tells the other elves that the drop is complete and also announcing that they have a new Santa, news that is met with cheers and applause. On the way back to the S1, Arthur's ascent goes awry and he falls, landing face first on the ground. With snow in his face and his red jacket billowing in the wind, Gwen sees him looking a lot like Santa Claus. Their eyes meet for a magical second and then he's swooshed upward with a big, content smile on his face. 1 year later, Steve is the North Pole's chief operations officer. Malcolm and Grand Santa bond in retirement. Bryony is now vice president in the wrapping division. Grand Santa's 8 reindeer have found their way back to the North Pole and are now leading a team of 5,000 reindeer, pulling the renamed S1, now called Evie, around the world on Christmas night. Everyone is happy. And on Christmas Eve, leading the charge and making everyone happy, we have Arthur Christmas. So, what do you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments, and if you enjoyed this recap, please like and subscribe for more. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.